Good evening, and welcome to the South Burlington Development Review Board for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. My name is Dawn Philibert. I'm the chair of the Development Review Board, and with me are other members of the board, starting on the far left, John Moscatelli, Frank Kochman, Leslie. Thank you. I know Jody Lesko. I'm sorry. I don't know why I always call Leslie. And Quinn Mann. And to my right, our staff, Marty Gillis and Marla Keene. Thank you for joining. This meeting is being recorded. There are a number of ways of participating. You can attend in person, as many people have here tonight, or you can join virtually online, or you could call in. Regardless of how you participate, it's important that you register your participation by signing in, either for those of you here in the auditorium, up back on the sign-up sheet. If you're online, please provide your contact information and register your participation through the chat box. And if you're calling in, please email to Marla your contact information, and her email is mkeene@southburlingtonvt.gov. That way, if you choose to take any future action, there'll be a record of your participation. So let's start with the agenda. Number one, emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency, there are doors in the back of the auditorium on each side. You would exit the door and turn left or turn right, and you would be outside. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of agenda items? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, announcements and reminders. Are there any announcements? Hearing none, we will go ahead and start looking at proposals. I'm sorry, I skipped an item. Number 4 on the agenda, comments and questions from the public that are not related to the agenda. Did you raise your hand, sir? No. Okay, thanks. Okay, the first plan, the first proposal or project, site plan application SP 2522 of the City of Burlington, Patrick Leahy Burlington International Airport, for the second phase of an approved master plan for an airport complex. The project consists of constructing a 43,303 square foot metal building for storage of snow removal equipment, a 3,658 square foot shed for material storage, a fueling area, and a large paved apron for vehicle maneuvering at 698 Airport Parkway. Who is here for the applicant?
Larry Lackey, Manager of Planning, Engineering, and Sustainability for Leahy BTV, and we have a whole team tonight. So,
Jackie DeJess with EIV Technical Services.
Yep, my name is Dave Carmen, Deputy Director of Aviation.
Dave, did you say?
Yes.
Sorry, could you say your last name again?
Lisa and Steve.
Dave, what is your last name again?
Carman, Carman.
Thank you.
Lisa Chung, Pastoral Associates.
Stephen Kushner, Pastoral Associates.
And we have Austin up there. Austin, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm calling in online today. My name is Austin Goodwin, Design Engineer for Pastoral Associates.
Thank you. Any others?
I think that's enough.
Okay, I'm going to swear you in. Raise your right hand. Or is this a sketch?
Nope.
Okay. Site plan. Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any folks who need to recuse? No. Okay. Probably goes for the second agenda item toward the next agenda item as well. Okay. Why don't you give us a very brief overview? We've read the staff report. You've read the staff report. If there's anything you'd like to say to start out, go ahead.
this is consistent with our sketch plan. This is a new snow removal equipment and maintenance building that'll replace our old one on the northwest corner of our property. It's required, the FAA requires you to store our equipment inside, and we don't have enough room to store it inside. So basically, this will be enough room to store all our large equipment.
Okay, thank you. Any questions before we dive into the questions in the staff report? Anyone? Okay, let's look at the first one.
And Dawn, we have some additional materials that will aid in responding to the staff comments, and I've got them printed,
Sure.
and I can hand them out.
Okay, Jackie, thanks. So the question is, how does this proposal fit into the master plan?
Okay, if you can wait a minute.
Sure.
Jack, yeah. Wait for Jackie to do that.
Would you like an electronic copy too, or?
I might be in the wrong document. Yes, I was.
Is that what you emailed me this afternoon? Marty, I did put it in the, okay, we have it.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Jackie. Oh, thank you. Wow. Some printer was busy. I apologize, I read the question wrong, or I read a question from another project. So the first question, we need to know the height of the proposed building relative to the pre-construction grade.
And as part of the comment, staff recommends the board require the applicant to update the computation of height to be relative to the difference between the roof and the existing conditions grade at all four corners of the principal building. So we created a table that includes the existing grade, finished floor, top of building, and height from existing grade for the southeast corner, northwest corner, northeast corner, southwest corner. And that ranges from 16.1 feet to 29.83 feet. And the average is 24.20 feet.
Thank you.
Just to confirm, this is a flat roof building.
So we anticipated that question. On the next page, we included an elevation that shows the ridge lines, which is the tallest point of the building. And we did that for both the east and west. On the west side, total height from existing grade would be 32.22 feet. And total height from existing grade on the east ridge line would be 36.92 feet. So we included the average of the four corners plus the ridge line to be 27.65 feet. But if you'd like any additional information, we're happy to answer your questions.
I think with this, there is enough information to figure out the height, but I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure the calculation you did is exactly right. It's just a little unusual way to get to it, so I'm not sure if the answer would have come out the same either way, but I think we have the information we need to determine the height.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, question number 2. This is regarding planned pedestrian access.
So the landscape plans, which is the first plan sheet in your packet, have been revised to include a proposed 5-foot pedestrian sidewalk from the north right-of-way of Airport Parkway to the edge of the existing parking lot. The sidewalk leads to a relocated ADA parking space and a crosswalk to the Enterprise Building. This revision also took into account comments number 9 and 10. There is a note here in the staff comments that there's a recommendation to the board to require the applicant to review the project with the Deputy Director of Capital Projects. We have provided this updated plan to the Deputy Director of Capital Projects. They are out of the office, so we contacted their supervisor and also provided them with a copy of the plan sheet. They were unavailable to review the plans, but we feel that we have considered the capital project that is along Airport Parkway and have provided a concept to make that compatible in terms of pedestrian access compatibility. So I understand the recommendation to have the Deputy Director of Capital Projects review and confirm this compliance. But since they were unavailable, we ask if the board would consider reviewing our proposed concept and consider that a condition of approval so that we have time to meet as early as tomorrow with the Deputy Director.
Board, what do you think?
So just for the board's understanding, this was sent yesterday or today. And so there wasn't sufficient time for the capital project
Right.
supervisor to review it. I did have a conversation with her about before she went on vacation, and what she explained to me is that the project is not as simple as a sidewalk along the existing alignment. So I think that there does need to be a conversation there.
Okay. And it sounds like you're fine with that. And so we'll deal with that either as a condition or if we have to continue the hearing when we do.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Number 3, this question deals with transition and the transition elements and what you envision for those.
Sure. In terms of transition elements and considering the context and proximity to the neighborhood, the SRE building's original proposed location was located further south, closer to Kirby Road. This was prior to the master plan. This was part of a rezoning conversation that had happened a couple years ago now. And the feedback that we received from the community was to increase the separation between this building and the residential neighborhood. So that's why we chose this new location, which is heavily vegetated along the southwest, along Airport Parkway to screen to the residences and provide that transition to the structure. The location of this building was also combined with an existing lot used by the airport to further minimize impacts to Airport Parkway and the surrounding area. This was achieved by using a shared curb cut versus the need for a new one. And we've provided additional plantings to the existing vegetation to aid in this transition.
And we've put it to the northwest as far as we can, as far as the location on the property.
Questions, board? As a rationale for the transition. Okay, I think we're good. Number 4. This is around the parking for businesses. No, parking within the SIDA, which is the Security Identified Display Area. Let me read this. I read it last night and I'm having trouble with my iPad tonight. Sorry, with this. Staff I can't read that. I'm sorry.
Don, it's in your packet that we just handed out too, if that makes it helpful.
Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you. Staff recommends the board discuss whether they will permit the proposed parking expansion under the above exception to the regulation requiring parking to be in the side or rear of buildings, taking into consideration that the parking is not to serve a building within the CEDA of the airport, but is to replace parking removed or accommodate proposed operations within the CD area. The board is reminded that modification of parking location standards are not allowed. Therefore, the proposed parking expansions must be allowable under one of the above exemptions in order to be permitted. Sorry.
Yep, they're listed above on Dawn's document that's shared on the screen. And to answer that question, the proposed expansion is requested to meet exemptions 4 and 8. The SRE building is located within the CETA, as you had mentioned, and therefore cannot have parking located to the sides or rear. Parking for the SRE building is required to be as close to the entrance as possible, which is along the fence line. This removes parking needed for enterprise to operate effectively. The expanding parking is to replace existing parking lost to the new development located to the side of the building, which is the only remaining space on the property.
Thank you.
So if I can just restate what you said, because I think you said two different things just now, and it was the same in your application, which is why we highlighted it in this way. The parking is to replace existing parking removed in order to accommodate the development. So it's not needed for the development, it's needed for the existing development that's losing some parking. And then you also said the parking is for the SRE building. So it can't be both of those things.
So the parking that would be along the fence line would be for the SRE building, and then the new parking spaces would be for the enterprise operations.
Which is CETA? Which conforms to?
Well, Dave, you want to just?
You wanna pull up the plan, Marty? Any
you
plan
can
will
understand
do.
what
Yeah, so
side
what SIDA is, it's everything inside the fence of the airport that requires a badge like that.
Okay.
So that's what that means.
I pronounced it CETA, sorry.
So
Side of-
in the middle of the page that Marty has up on the screen right now is that fence. You can see it's a line with little X's on it. And so the exception number 8 is to allow parking to the front of the building when the building or a portion thereof being served by the parking is contained within the CETA area of a publicly owned and operated airport. So if the parking is for the snow removal equipment building that is inside the fence, then that exception applies. If the parking is for buildings outside of that fence or not part of that fence line, that exception does not apply. Other potentially applicable exemptions are parking needed to meet ADA. They have one ADA space on their plan. It looks like it's been removed from this plan. Okay.
It's shown right there where you have the panhandle.
And then the other exemption is the lot contains one or more existing buildings that are to be reused, and parking needs cannot be accommodated to the rear and sides of existing buildings. So we
Martha,
as
are
staff thought this was sort of pretty classical gray opportunity for the board to exercise their judgment.
So can you maybe said this, but just to chat through the number of parking spaces that are kind of being allocated to the building that's being proposed within the SIDA?
I don't. First thing I'd like to say, then Jack can pick up on that, is that area already exists. That's existing. Okay, it's already there. We are making some other modifications to that parking lot as part of this project, but that lot is already there. So.
Mm-hmm. And there are 33 new parking spaces that are being relocated and
So
added.
on this plan, the new is the gray shaded and the existing reconfigured parking is in white.
So am I correct in thinking that the proposed building is not inside the CETA area?
That's incorrect. The
It is,
SIDA area is above the dashed line in the middle of the plan.
Okay.
So if Marty were to zoom out, you would see the terminal to your right and the runways to the above the building.
Yeah, runway's on the other side of
All
this.
right. Thanks.
What's on the other side of Airport Parkway facing the river?
Yeah, woods.
Yeah, and then the
Woods.
wastewater treatment plant
The
is
wastewater treatment plant's like off to the left and below. Directly across is woods. It goes downhill pretty quick to the river.
Landfill, waste dump over here in the river. This is the existing building. It's labeled there. And the new building will go right here.
in the
Really
landfill.
You're having a hard time. I'm sorry.
Any harm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, so we ready to move on then? Okay. All right, thank you. Number 5. The question is, will the translucent panels look like windows or like a wall?
We have pictures of the translucent panels that were recently installed on another snow removal and equipment building at the Greater Rochester International Airport. That's included in the packet. We provided photos of a view from inside of the building looking out, and then also from the outside of the building.
Looking in.
It, on this page, these?
Yeah, that's
Right
it.
up here.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's it.
Okay.
that's it.
Yep.
That's the appearance from the outside.
Yep. Oh, shit.
Oh, I see, okay.
What's the advantage of the translucent panels versus glass? Just transparent. What's the advantage of
Durability
translucent?
more than anything else.
Pardon?
Durability. You don't have glass that could break or shatter. It's a more durable panel. It allows the natural light, but doesn't allow. You don't have to maintain it in the same way. You don't have to clean it in the same way as well.
I'm sorry, I was going to let you go because I thought you were just going to say a couple words, but if you are going to testify, please use the microphone.
Does that answer your question, Frank?
Yeah. Also,
And Frank, you got to turn your mic on.
again, what's to the exterior of the building?
So the window side is the side that faces the street.
Same response. You know.
I'm sorry?
Same response. It seems not harmful in any way, or no particular reason to impose something else.
So this question was sort of a lead-in to the next question, to provide the board a more full picture of the appearance of the building. So staff comment number 6 is about this whole criteria taken together. The criteria is about relationship of structures in site to the adjoining area, attractive transitions between buildings of different architectural styles, harmonious relationships between structures, the terrain, and existing buildings and roads in the vicinity.
So the question is, could the siding be colored in any way to blend in with the background?
Sure. So the building shell is a prefabricated structure and has availability for some different color options from the manufacturer. The current proposal is a dark brick base with a taupe above, a very natural color. The architect's intent is to choose colors that are neutral, that tend to blend in with various environments and are less likely to stand out against an open sky backdrop that is consistent with large airports.
I don't see how the color question bears on the criterion. Respond to recurring or representative architectural features that define neighborhood character. I mean, that's sort of, I don't get it. I mean, what does color have to do with that criterion?
So are you saying that we've answered your question for the staff comment, or do you have another follow-up question?
Are you saying you don't understand why our LDR is written the way it is, Frank? Or
No, I'm asking, hang on, go back to the criterion again in the comment. Where's the criterion?
So this is like a complicated one where there's criteria 1, criteria 2, and then to accomplish 1 and 2, there's more detailed A and B. So the overarching 2 criteria that they're trying to meet are 1 and 2 here.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong criterion. Right?
And then A and B would be more detailed.
It seems to me this is more about continuity, and so I was looking at the area around there, and the only other structure there is the existing building, which I'm looking at Google Maps, so I don't know if that's up to date, but it has a looks like a lighter exterior. So I'm guessing that's what we're kind of looking at is the continuity of.
So what's we were trying to get at here is that this is an area that's largely undeveloped. And so the criteria is about consistency between buildings, but also consistency with the area. And so how if there's nothing there today and they're proposing a building that's an acre. Is there a way to make an acre-sized building blend in better with woods?
Yeah.
And I
And
don't
in
know
that
if
case,
color
a
is the
dirt
right way.
colored
There might be
bottom
other
and a
ways.
taupe top would qualify.
You say that again?
So if you're saying one of the color options would be basically brick or, a red dirt sort of color up toward the ground, and a natural sort of woodsy color in the top, it seems like that would be a consideration for a place that the only other thing it could blend in with is the building. So we're either looking at undeveloped ground or a neighboring building. Yeah. Okay.
And to me, the side panels, if you're saying they're like a taupe color, did you say taupe is one of the choices?
A taupe color, yeah, for the siding.
That's kind of what our skies look like a lot of the time in Vermont. They're not blue.
You're saying it'll blend right in?
Right.
That's our goal.
I'm sorry, did you want to say something? No. Any other questions before we move on? Does this give us enough to, okay. All right. Question number 7, thank you. We need to know more about what you have in mind for a required site amenity.
Sure. We've updated the landscape plans, which is the first plan sheet in the packet that was handed out. And this now includes a pocket park that is at the same location as the sidewalk connection that's been added near the ADA parking space. And the pocket park will install picnic tables as an outdoor amenity to employees while utilizing the existing and supplemental site screening and landscaping.
Jackie, what page is that on, please? Oh, on the big one. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The first big one, yeah.
Okay. Questions from the board? Alrighty. Number 8. We need to address the DPW comments, but you addressed that early on, and we'll get back to that at another time.
These were DPW comments in response to stormwater. Is that what you're referencing, those blue comments?
Number 8, yes.
So Tom had provided these comments to us, and we do have a response to those.
Okay.
And prior to Tom providing these comments, we worked really closely with the stormwater engineer, Monica Ingalls, and went through all of this with her, and also the HydroCAD model that was submitted is in compliance with all of these. So I'm going to walk through each one just to confirm.
Thank you, Jackie.
Sure. I'll mention his comment as well. The proposed project is located outside of a stormwater impaired watershed, which we acknowledge. The proposed project creates greater than half an acre of new impervious surface and must meet the requirements of section 1305 of the LDRs. This means that the water quality volume shall not leave the site via overland flow and be treated using Tier 1 practices. In addition, the post-construction peak runoff rate for the one-year storm event shall not exceed the current peak runoff rate. Our response to that is the project stormwater design utilizes 2 underground chamber systems, which are Tier 1 practices, one for the air side and one for the new parking expansion. Both chambers are sized to hold the one-year storm to meet green infrastructure requirements, which also meet the channel protection volume requirements. The chamber designs release water at rates lower than what's currently there for all storm events. The next comment is, has the applicant reviewed section 1305B to determine the extent to which stormwater treatment must be provided on site? It appears as if the entire site must meet stormwater treatment requirements as specified in the LDR section 1305B. 3B, the board should clarify plans for the parking area shown on sheet C114. It appears as if this area may meet the definition of redevelopment or substantial reconstruction. We worked closely with the city planning staff and the stormwater specialist regarding this requirement. During review, meetings with the stormwater specialist found that the milling and grading changes do not call for disturbance of the underlying subsoils, and the purpose of the regrading is to properly route the stormwater runoff. The proposed stormwater chamber system under the west side parking lot was an appropriate way to provide treatment for a storm system that currently has no protections. The mill and regrade of the west lot was designed to send over half an acre of existing pavement to the chamber field for stormwater management. The proposed design removes over 7,000 square feet of existing pavement that has no stormwater treatment and replaced the new parking area having treatment, landscaping, curbs, and islands. Has the applicant evaluated the impacts of this project on downstream drainage structures as required by Section 1305F of the LDR, specifically at discharge point 3? The proposed reduction in existing pavement on the east side lot and the installation of a new stormwater chamber system in the west lot provides a decrease in peak runoff rates for all storm events draining to discharge point 3, lowering impact on downstream infrastructure. The board should include a condition requiring that all stormwater treatment practices be maintained. Details to the proper maintenance of the EcoPure biofilter and infiltration chamber system should be clear on the improved project plans. The Patrick Leahy Burlington International Airport possesses and maintains a stormwater pollution prevention plan, or SWIP, as well as annual inspection and reporting to the Agency of Natural Resources for compliance with their MS4 permit, a permit which authorizes stormwater discharges for urbanized areas. The operations and maintenance manual for the EcoStream has been added to the plans on C-215, which is the second plan sheet in your packet. And the inspection and maintenance of the chamber systems are included on sheets C-216 and C-217, which are the following two sheets in the packet. There is also a note that the project must comply with CWD specification, and we agree.
And 6 through 11? Comments 6 through 11?
Looks like I did not copy that part over. Let me see. No. What best management practices will be in place at the material storage area to prevent salt from migrating off-site or into groundwater? This material storage area is completely enclosed, so the salt would not be migrating from the building area. Is the project proposing any snow storage areas that would be used during snow removal from the runway or other areas? We have added snow storage areas to plan sheets C-112 and C-113, and specifically those are the last two plan sheets in your packet, and the snow storage areas are highlighted. And so in looking at those sheets, there are snow storage areas in the fenced-in side-out area of the airfield, and it's to the east of the proposed building and also to the south in open grassy areas. We also included snow storage areas to the north of the additional new parking spaces and also to the west of existing parking spaces.
Okay, good.
The project proposes to install an oil water separator. The applicant must obtain a grease, oil, and sand separator permit from the city's wastewater division. We're familiar with those and we will secure that.
Good.
The project must obtain a wastewater allocation from the city's wastewater division, and we will ensure to secure that. The project must obtain a drinking water allocation from the city's water division, and we will secure that. Prior to completing any work in the city-owned right-of-way for Airport Parkway, the applicant must obtain a right-of-way permit from DPW, and we will do that.
Great, thank you.
Just really quick, I'm not a stormwater expert, but just because something's inside a building doesn't mean it might not get out. I think it was just last year the Air Force put a bunch of stuff in the river, even though it was inside a building. So I don't know what BMPs might be applicable, but I just wanted to point out that the airport has had a history of discharging things that were supposed to be in buildings out of buildings.
Not the airport, but the
Sure. Tomato, tomato.
I mean, that's a whole different situation.
Okay, I think we can move on. Thank you for that, Jackie. Did someone have something to say?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. There we go.
And maybe this is for Austin, but I believe that the site drainage components do also flow into that oil water separator, so that would be a secondary collection for the salt.
Thank you. Alrighty, number 9. This is regarding the ADA parking space. One of these 3 parking spaces is an ADA compliant parking space. Staff recommends the board only require removal of this parking space if an alternative ADA compliant space can be provided.
Per recommendation from the South Burlington Fire Marshal, we did remove the 3 parking spaces on the southeast side. And there is a screenshot within the packet that we provided that shows the proposed new location of the ADA parking space. This is adjacent to the proposed new sidewalk and has a crosswalk towards the building.
Thank you. Questions, board? Okay, number 10, you alluded to that earlier, Jackie. This question calls for coordination with the Deputy Director of Capital Projects. Sounds like you're going to be doing that, so thank you.
Mhm.
Questions, anyone? Okay, number 11. I'm going to read this. This has to do with CBES, Commercial Building Energy Standards. Staff recommends the board direct the applicant to provide a computation of how many EV-capable spaces are required under CBES and to modify the plans to provide the same number of EV-ready spaces prior to closing the hearing.
Per CBES Table C 405.13.1, which is included in the packet that we handed out, the total quantity of required EV power transfer infrastructure for Group F, H, or S buildings, which is ours, is to provide 2% EVSE, electric vehicle supply equipment spaces, 2% EV-ready spaces, and 10% EV-capable spaces. Per the city LDRs, those 10% EV capable spaces are to be upgraded to EV ready spaces. For the 33 replacement parking spaces, this equates to 1 electric vehicle supply equipment station and 4 EV ready spaces. The plans have been revised accordingly. They are sheets C-114 and E002. They are found towards the center of your plan sheet packet. The 5th and 6th sheets. So sheet C-114 shows the equipment and the location. And then E002 is being updated, but we provided a redlined plan.
Thank you. Questions? You did a lot of work in preparation for this.
Shout out to Austin, who's online.
Late nights, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 12, I'm going to read this. Staff supports the trips being considered on a master plan basis. However, staff also supports TDM being applied on a phase-by-phase basis if that is the most appropriate strategy for this particular master plan. I wasn't sure if that was a question or a suggestion from staff.
We discussed it a little bit during the master plan process, and we also had submitted the concurrent North Concourse Replacement Project site plan application where we discussed this. And we would propose that we follow the same process that we did for the North Concourse and apply TDM requirements on a phase-by-phase basis.
Okay. Okay with you, board? Okay, number 13. We need 2 long-term bicycle storage areas that are secure.
I appreciate that clarification. There is a long-term bicycle parking location call-out that we included as a screenshot in the packet that we handed out. This has been updated, Marla. The call-out number 18 and the 2 long-term bicycle lockers are located by the mezzanine stairway, which are also close to the lockers.
Questions, board? Okay. Moving on to number 14. This is a question about requiring curbing for head-in parking, particularly on the west side.
I have a different 14.
Since the applicant is proposing to mill and overlay, is this not the one about curbing?
Oh, you're right. You're right. I just read the last sentence.
Okay.
You're doing a better job than I am tonight, Don. Carry on.
All right.
It's a two-part
It
comment.
was a test. It's a two-part comment, but it's ultimately about curbing for head-in parking.
The proposed curb for the expanded parking area has now been extended along the existing lot edge to protect the new landscape plantings.
Okay. Does that satisfy our curiosity?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Board, any questions? Okay. The next question, are trees and proposed landscaping on the application or are on the applicant's property or the city property? And staff believes we need to show the property line.
The proposed, hold on, is there a 14A? I just want to address the blue comment. For
Sure.
the proposed trees, the city arborist recommended that we remove or replace what we were proposing for maple trees with either the hackberry or the ginkgo. And so we have updated the landscape plan to include the ginkgo.
Great. Okay. Now, are the trees on your property or are they on city property?
If you're flipping through the packet, you'll see the vertical bike lockers that will be included. I just wanted to include the cut sheet in there, so that's back to that bike locker comment, but flipping past that. The landscape plan has been revised to now more clearly show the property line. So again, that's the first plan sheet in your packet. It's darker line. 2 of the existing shade trees are within the city's right-of-way. However, there are a minimum of 6 shade trees that exist on the airport's property to still meet this criterion.
So looking at that plan sheet, Marty, if you don't mind pulling it up, it's the first plan in their handout from today. It looks like about, I don't know, 1/3, maybe a quarter of the landscaping is not on airport property, but is instead in the city's right of way. Yeah.
Outside of the shade trees, are you talking about to the east side and
To the south of the driveway.
or the south? Yeah, sorry.
So I don't know that our arborist knew that. But typically we would not accept anything other than trees in the right of way because we don't have the capacity to maintain shrubs and
Right.
things. Market Street itself is actually done by a contractor that the city hires. So I would kind of want the city arborist's feedback, knowing that there's some non-tree plantings proposed outside the right of way and whether he would accept that or not. And the options would be either don't have it or on very rare occasions the city has allowed some sort of maintenance agreement.
Okay. So you'll check on that and
Yeah.
bring it back to us.
And we're willing either way to maintain it or replace in kind or whatever we got to do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, number 16 is about snow storage, and you've already shown us that you highlighted those areas on the plan sheets. Thank you for doing that. And number 17 is about, let's see, I know my notes have disappeared. The photometric drawings and lighting cut sheets are needed. And we need to know that they are fully cut off fixtures or shielded for the proposed fixtures.
Sure. The proposed wall pack comes with a large array of options to meet these requirements, including factory installed house shields, glare shields, and tilting brackets. These options are on the provided cut sheet under options, on page 2, we included after the end of this letter quite a bit of additional information on the lighting products. And what we are proposing to do is to include brackets that would tilt the wall packs inward. But we are open to other options.
Are the brackets fixed in place? In other words, once they're set, you would need a tool to change it.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
They're fixed.
We can, yep.
Do we have any basis to object?
No, that's what other applicants have done on similar lights.
And number 18 says we need cut sheets for those, please.
So there's quite a few cut sheets.
Okay.
Right after the end of the letter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my goodness.
There's lots of options, yeah.
Brings us to the end of this proposal. Board, before we turn to public comment, do you have any questions? And I'm just thinking that we won't close tonight. There's some more work to be done, and we'll have to continue this. So,
Yeah, just to my understanding, to make sure we're all on the same page, it really just seems like the continuing to work with the Deputy Director of Capital Projects. Again, we understand that you put forward proposal with the landscaping, but based on Marla's feedback, it sounds like we don't want another component of that to come out and already have an approval, and then also the discussion with the arborist. So I think those are the two main things. Our staff or anyone else tracking anything else?
I had noted down checking on the height calculation,
Yep.
whether they need a waiver.
Right.
Reviewing the pocket park for compliance with the specific requirements of being a pocket park and not some other type of site amenity.
Yep.
And reviewing of the new stormwater information.
Okay. So yeah, that's on kind of our review side, or staff's review side, and then you working with city staff. But
We obviously always want to close, but we understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay.
and I think it's fair to say, given how prepared you come, that once that's done and we schedule you to come back, which we'll do tonight, it's going to be a brief meeting. So, okay, let's before we deal with that, let's turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on site plan application SP 2522? None here. Any online? No. Any on the phone? Okay. So Marla, if we were to continue this, what would be the date?
I was thinking July 1, which is the normal period for new information. If the board really wanted to, they could theoretically do it at the next one. It would be a bit of a yank for staff to get through everything.
So what do you think? July 1st?
Do you guys have a preference?
As soon as we can.
As soon as we can. And we have provided those documents to the Director of Capital Projects and also her supervisor, who has also reviewed the plans already previously. So if we could stay in June, that would be great.
So let's be realistic, Marla. I know we'll be short-staffed and it's the summer. Is it realistic to take care of this at the next meeting? Be realistic.
I'm a little concerned about, and I know this isn't your problem, but I'm a little concerned about availability to get through some of this stuff.
Okay. All right. I'm afraid we're going to have to talk about July 1st.
Okay.
Sorry. So do I have a motion to continue this SP 2522 to July 1st?
Move to continue.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jody. Any comments or questions? All in favor of continuing SP 2522 to July 1st, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, we'll see you back here
Thank you very
beginning of
much.
July. Bring some sunshine, will you? Right. We're players. The what?
My solar panel power
Oh.
broke down last month.
Yeah. You got my I love it. Oh, yeah. North Star.
That's what they do. That's kind of
Yeah. Okay. All right. The next project is Master Plan Sketch Plan Application SK 2503 of the City of Burlington, Patrick Leahy, Burlington International Airport, to amend a master plan for an approximately 901.6 acre existing airport complex. The amendment consists of adding 14,200 square feet of adding a 200 square foot hangar in a location at the south end of the master plan area accessed via Aviation Avenue at 240 Eagle Drive. Who is here for the applicant, please?
Chris Gendron with Stantec.
Say your first name, please.
Chris Gendron.
Chris, thank you, Chris.
And Katie Calabrese with EIV Technical Services.
Thank you, Katie.
Larry Lackey.
Larry, okay. Jackie, thank you. You folks? No. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to make you do this again. Raise your right hand, please. I'm going to swear you in. Do you
Oh, no swearing. It's no swearing.
It's sketch? Okay, you don't have to swear. That's good. Okay, board, before we get into this, do you have any general questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none. The first question is kind of a general question. How does this fit into your master plan?
That's more, yeah.
Yep, I got it. So the Meyer hangar, if we're looking at number one, this will fall into phase number 2. Our goal is for the project to begin construction July 2025, with construction expected to last 6 to 8 months. So looking at spring 2026.
Board, do you have questions?
Do you want a general introduction to what the project is, since you haven't seen it before?
I think that would be helpful, frankly.
That's why the stunned face. I was like, oh, I was ready to give an introduction, and then you turned a question towards me that I'm not prepared to answer. So,
it's all yours, Chris.
Yeah. So essentially, BTV is proposing a location for a future hangar. It's adjacent to the Valley West apron, which is the apron you'll see on the plan you'll see in front of you. It's on the south end of the airport. If you head down Aviation Ave and then take a right onto Eagle Drive, drive past the Beta hangar, which we talked about quite a bit at length. It's just adjacent to that to kind of get you oriented. And this is going to be proposed to be added to their existing master plan, so we're amending it. Stantec Consulting Services, as the civil engineer, has done a test fit for the site. So just so everyone knows that all the details haven't been totally worked out. Things are still fluid. Things can still change. So what we've done is done a test fit, and the materials you've seen will likely show something that may change in the future, because we just wanted to make sure we could put something in that area and get a general idea of how big it would be, what kind of aircraft it could hold, and that's what we've done to date. So.
Hence the sketch nature of the whole.
Hence the sketch nature, exactly. We really wanted to just make sure something would work out there.
Okay. So, Chris, I have a question. On the diagram, is the Beta building the building to the left of the magenta?
To the right. See all the solar panels?
So remember that there's 2 Beta buildings at the south end of the airport. There's the large manufacturing facility that's off the page to the right, and then there's the smaller
original
building that's next to the magenta.
And that's what we see. Okay, I was going to say that doesn't look as big as the Beta, but I was thinking of the other Beta.
To the left is like an older Pratt. It's Pratt and Whitney. They make engines.
Right.
So the thing that says Heritage Aviation, and the building next to it, one of those is like international arrivals, right?
Yep.
Has customs.
Yeah, customs is over there.
So if you've ever flown into Burlington from Canada, that's where you landed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 2. And I have a question about what this question means. Marla, staff recommends the board direct the applicant to specifically respond to each of the items in the submission requirements at the next stage of review. I'm not sure what that means.
My understanding was that we would go through each item, that we would go through each standard and provide a response for each in our narrative. Is that?
But
correct?
we always do.
Yeah.
We always do that. So what does this comment? How is this comment different than our normal process?
So in what's not shown in your packet is it just says project description. Project description in the LDR is a lot more specific in a master plan. It says 8 or 12 different things you have to describe about your project. And so instead of just having it be one big blobby paragraph, the recommendation here is to say item 1, description, item 2, description. So it's a little
So I'm
easier
not missing
to parse.
anything. Okay.
Right, we're trying to keep the words on this page short.
Okay, great. Number 3, this is about the context map. I'm going to read it. Staff recommends the board direct the applicant to update the overall context map and provide an individual context map for the proposed addition to the master plan.
Yep. So we'll be updating our context map and submitting an individual context map as well, consistent with our original master plan that we already have in place.
Thank you. Let's move on to number 4. In order to facilitate an efficient master plan review, staff recommends the board provide clear guidance as part of this sketch plan meeting on whether the applicant should include proposed addition to the master plan in a previously approved phase or in a new phase.
Yeah, I just wanted to hang a few more words on this because we went over it before they gave the description of the project.
Okay.
If you go back to the way beginning, the first staff comment, just before it, there's a little table of the currently approved phases for the project. And so today, the airport has approval for the North Concourse and the recreation path. You've just heard an application for phase 2. And phase 3 is some apron expansion, hangar expansion, and then the South Concourse, which is part of the existing terminal. So what I heard Katie say is that they're proposing to add this to phase 2. So phase 2, you would be updating the statistics for phase 2, not showing it as like, you know, a new phase 3 with phase 3 bumped to phase 4 is what you're proposing.
Okay, great.
We'll be back later, probably this summer, for the apron expansion.
Okay.
That's coming next.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. Okay, number 5. We would like, please, an explanation of the management and operation plan for the proposed addition.
Yep. So it would be the same as our previous master plan application, where the Burlington Airport would have direct control over the maintenance and management.
Okay. Questions, board? Okay. All right, moving on to general review standards. I'm going to read number 6.
So in this part of the report, we've kind of switched from a master plan sketch plan to a sketch plan review of the proposed project.
Okay, thank you. Staff recommends the board discuss with the applicant what measures they will be taking to improve compliance with these criteria. And there are 3 criteria listed.
Yes, and there's a couple of things I want to touch on. First is setback. When we did the test for the site, there's actually a stormwater tank below the building. And what is required is that we span that a certain distance. So the width of our building is kind of set. So, and the location of our building is set. So we can't move any closer to the road because we need it to, it's hard to describe, but it needs to sit on basically 2 pillars on each side. So it needs to be supported by 2 pillars on each side to span that tank. So we're kind of set. We can't put it on top of the tank, so we can't move left, we can't move right. So our setback ends up being It's right around, it's still up for debate, but it's around 30 feet. Across the way, that setback is at 38 feet. And then the existing hangar off Da Vinci Drive is 25 feet. So we're relatively consistent with setback. Like I described before, the width is what it is. We can't make it any wider. It's maybe a little narrower than most buildings out there. The length is consistent with the other buildings out there, and the height is consistent as well. So from a relationship to other structures on site and the orientation, it is, in our minds, consistent. It's going to be planned to be consistent with other buildings in the area.
Thank you. Questions, board? Okay, number 7, staff recommends the board ask the applicant how they will use architectural features and position and orientation of the building to comply with these criteria.
As you could see on the drawing, the apron is configured a certain way. The aircraft apron is configured a certain way. So our building will be directly perpendicular with the existing beta hangar, just to provide access to the apron. So from an orientation standpoint, it's going to be consistent with that. From a material standpoint, it's always been clear that we're going to do the project is going to, we haven't gotten to the details of that. It could be a different type of material, but the goal has always been to match the look and feel of the adjacent hangar.
Thank you. Questions? Number 8, staff recommends the board ask the applicant to describe what site amenity type they are proposing and where they are proposing for it to be located.
We did a test fit and we found an ample location to do it. And we're aware of that requirement, and we're going to provide a parklet or pocket park, or it's still up for debate what that is, but we're aware of it, and we're going to make sure we comply with that criteria.
And this is sketch, so we don't need that
Yeah,
detail.
exactly. We'll get to those details, but we're aware of it, and we're going to make sure it's part of the plan.
Okay, questions? Okay. Number 9, we need an evaluation of trips and TDM at the next stage of review, please.
The only comment I would have on that one, it's a little unique in that this hangar is to store aircraft.
Right.
So you're not having dedicated staff. You're potentially having like one visitor during the peak hour. So with that, I just would want to get some input on what you'd be looking for from us for that.
For trips. And
yeah.
Yep. Marla, your thoughts, please?
It doesn't have to be more complicated than it is. If there's an ITE use that is hangar, go for it. If there's a analogous use of occasionally used vehicle storage, use that.
Great.
It doesn't have to be over-engineered.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Don't overthink it. Okay. And number 10. This is a question about seeking reduction of solar roof requirements. And if you are seeking that, can you justify that, please, at the next phase? So the first question is, will you be seeking the reduction of solar roof requirements?
Not at this point. We're aware of that requirement. And,
Okay.
We've already started looking into the solar ready analysis for the building, and we'll provide that analysis at the next phase.
Then I think we're good. Okay.
Can I ask a question to enable us to be more educated in review of all applications? Is there a universe in which you, as you being the airport, runs up against, like, I don't know if it's called net metering? Well, basically you're not allowed to have any more solar panels connected to the grid. Is that going to become a problem at some point for you guys? Is that not an issue? And it's not about this project. It's more about enabling us to have intelligent conversations with other applicants.
Oh yeah, it's on thing. We, myself and Nick.
Is that on?
There you go. Now
we can hear you, Larry.
So just recently, Nick and I had met with BED with respect to the terminal project that's going on, and that we're currently going through a planning effort. And at this point, there's no indication of that. So we're working towards building that whole array out as far as that, the SRE building, all that kind of stuff. So right now, nothing
Great.
we're aware of.
All right, Larry, thanks.
And
Board?
just for my own education, is instead of or in addition to the hangar expansion in phase 3? Like, are you moving the hangar expansion from phase 3 into phase 2, or this is a second separate hangar?
I believe the hangar expansion is the Pratt and Whitney, Larry, so that's a different project.
Correct. So as of right now, the expansion of Pratt and Whitney hangar is on hold due to some internal stuff they're able to do to be more efficient. But this is not in place. So this slides in between phase 2 and phase 3. This is in between those projects.
It's separate from the one listed here.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. It's a new. That's why we're also master planning it here too. Thank you, Marie.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, board, before we turn to public comment, do you have any questions for the applicant? Who we will see again at a later point in time.
Just to back up to there was several blue comments in there as well that talk about additional wastewater allocation, oil water separator, additional drinking water allocation. We're aware of all that. And the stormwater requirements, the site's, like I said, it's sitting on top of a giant stormwater tank. So we'll work with the Public Works that the state has already said we could use that as our stormwater treatment. So we'll tap into that existing system to get treatment.
Okay, great. So are there any members of the public who are here or online or on the phone who would like to comment? Marty, are there any online? No? Okay, good. Thank you. So do we vote to close on the sketch?
No,
we're
just see you next time.
We are done with you tonight. So see you next time. Thank you
Thank you. Have a good night.
and good luck. Okay, the next project, I'll introduce them and then sorry, thanks. The next project is sketch plan application SKK 2502 of Northeast Agriculture Trust to subdivide an existing 36.2 acre lot development with a single family home and an accessory shed into 2 lots. Lot 1 consisting of 34.2 acres and presently undeveloped, and Lot 2 consisting of 2.0 acres and containing the existing single-family home and shed at 1720 Spear Street. And I am recused, so I'm going to step down and, I think we talked about this.
We did last
We
week.
did,
Yep.
good, okay.
All set. Great.
I can read it.
Marty's going to shift over to sit next to you because this is Marty's review item, and I'm going to run the screen, and Marty's going to do the talking for
Sounds
staff.
good. All right, let us reset. Feel free to sit down. We're just resetting.
David wants me
Oh,
to have some things on. I'd also like to say when I arrived, the front door on Dorset Street and the side door on Dorset Street are both locked. So I couldn't get in until someone was leaving.
Huh.
So you
I'll check.
Ignoring me. So, this is the sort of, if you like, a rebuttal to the staff comments. You'd like to have it on the record?
Thank you.
And Marty's only got a few days left.
That's right. Do you have
I tried to think about the lunch and he said we already had arrangements.
Do you have a digital copy of these problems?
I can send you one.
Yeah.
Earlier, maybe. Washington's empty.
Great. All right.
Why not?
Begin to get settled here. All right. To start, if you both can just introduce yourselves and your relationship to the project.
David Mullen. I work with Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity staff, and we're also representing Northeast Agricultural Trust in this.
Robin Pierce, Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity.
Great. And so like our last application, this is sketch, so I don't need to swear you in, but we still ask that you tell the truth. And so also just a note about this is sketch. So if the project moves forward, there will be a final subdivision application, which will also be reviewed by this body. So just to provide a little context there. And before we jump into the staff report, if you want to just open with some brief comments and an overview of your proposal.
Yeah, thank you. Our intention is at some point to develop the lot and create affordable home ownership in South Burlington. I know the city of South Burlington and the residents are interested in more affordable housing. Habitat has been around for over 40 years in Vermont, and we create affordable home ownership, quality home ownership. And that's the intention here. What we're looking to do is to take the first step, the very first step, with a simple subdivision of a 2-acre parcel.
Excellent. Thank you. And with that, I'll just go to the first comment, which I think you addressed, but if you want to add anything or if anyone from the board has questions, first comment is staff recommends the board direct the applicant to provide the intended use and development of all land to be subdivided. So you talked about, the divided parcel ultimately being for affordable housing. Are you at the point of knowing if that's going to be a single family home, anything like that? So just
We're
kind of
we're
step one, as you
just
said.
putting our foot in the water here and looking to get this simple first step accomplished.
For the subdivision.
We've looked at a few options, but we haven't settled on anything.
Great. The board, before we move on, does anyone have any questions about the intended use here? No? Okay. We will move on to staff comment number 2. So staff recommends the board direct the applicant to provide a delineation no more than 5 years old of the wetlands on and in proximity to the property that identify the size, location, and classification of the wetlands as part of the final plat application. So this would be at your next step. And as staff in their overview noted, and I think it's in some of the site plans, the potential class 3 wetland and class 2 wetland that appear to be on the property.
We're fine with that.
Okay. So that will be a delineation provided at the next step.
Or you might already have it too. I just didn't know how old your delineation was. That's
Oh.
referenced on the plan. So if it's less than 5 years old, then you're golden. But if it's older than 5, you'll need a new one.
That's fine. We're good with that, Marty. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, Marty. Staff comment number 3, staff recommends the board direct the applicant to calculate the buildable area of the proposed lot 1, calculating and deducting the area of all limitations and constraints defined below as part of the final plat application for this proposed subdivision.
We won't own lot 1. If we're successful here, we'll own lot 2. For us to do a build out of a lot we don't own, to us doesn't make any sense. We would look at a
Maybe
build
the
out
owner
of lot 2.
should be here because it's a new lot that's being created. Same as this one's being created. The 34.2 acre lot is also being created. So,
but it's a 36 acre lot at the moment, and a build out's never been done of it.
Right. So we're looking at the subdivision here. So we have to look at both lots. So again, this is at the final plat application. We know that your interest in constructing in the future is limited to lot 2, but we still need to consider lot 1. So we'll need that buildable area calculated.
and it shouldn't be super burdensome. I'm happy to help. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Board, we still good? Anything else? Great. Comment number 4, staff recommends the board direct the applicant to work with the Director of Planning and the Director of the Department of Public Works to identify the exact dimensions and location of the right-of-way between the northern stub on North Jefferson Road and the southern stub of Parkside Road, and reflect that right-of-way and other rights-of-way necessary for planned future development on plan sheets in the final plat application. So accompanying this comment, staff recommended some right-of-ways that recommended to be provided. Maybe if we could bring up that plan that's in the packet. A markup. just for the visual here. So is this something, and again, this is just the recommendation to work with the Director of Planning and the Director of Department of Public Works to work on this before we see you again. Do you have any comments to that?
I don't think we'd have any problem talking about what's designated as 3 on the site. 1 and 2.
It's kind of the same situation though. It's
within our purview. There's no proposal to develop.
But then the person whose purview it is within should be here because this is germane to them. I know that you're only interested in lot 2, but lot 1 is still being created and it still needs to meet all city regulations. Specific right now is that road number 1 is a planned city street. So the city intends to have that right of way. So all planned city streets are required to be provided at some point. And then 2 and 3 are more just like suggestions for connectivity. So that's not what comment 4 specifically is about, but comment 4 is specifically about providing the right of way for number 1 here, which is a planned city street to the city. And so if it's not something that you care about, that maybe the Northeast Agricultural Trust should be here or should be party to those conversations, because that is going to be required before we permit the creation of lot 1.
Can I frame that slightly differently?
Yeah.
So I would say that, as we always tell applicants, anyone can be an applicant on a project, but the property owner's signature is required. And by signing the application, the property owner is saying, I authorize this applicant to make an application on my behalf for the property. And this is a 30-something acre property. So it's not just because you are interested in having a ownership of the front lot, you are still representing the entire property in making this application.
Okay.
So could I clarify or ask for clarification? So in requesting this simple subdivision of a 2-acre parcel off of the larger parcel, the larger parcel's eventual use and impact and everything else is taken into consideration for the 2-acre parcel.
Because you could just as easily frame it as taking 34 acres off of the 36-acre parcel. You're framing it in your head as taking 2 off of 36, but you could also frame it as taking 34 off of 36.
So then what would the difference be between a simple subdivision and what we're asked to do as far as the larger parcel?
So the difference between a minor subdivision and a major subdivision is the number of lots. So a 3-lot subdivision would be considered a major subdivision. You would have sketch plan, preliminary plat, and final plat. On a minor subdivision, you just have sketch plan and final plat. So you skip a stage of review.
But you still have to address what would be on the larger parcel, even though that's not the intention of the subdivision.
You're still asking this board to provide authorization for the creation of 2 lots, because it's 1 lot now and now we're having 2 new lots. So we have to, as Marty has said, review both lots for compliance with the LDRs as they apply. So that's the position that we're in. That's what we have to review.
Thank you.
Yeah, it seemed. Sorry, go ahead.
Just add, we need to make sure that what's left still meets the requirements, still has frontage, still has access, all that. We don't want to take a parcel that's compliant and impact it in such a way that the residual is no longer compliant. We have to make sure that both of them still function, so we have to understand what's going on with both of them.
Understood 100%. My point is we've got lot 1, and we're trying to make lot 2 out of a small portion of lot 1. Lot 1 still has access on Spear Street. It still has the roads sanctioned as 1 and 2. So what we're taking off doesn't negate or take away anything that lot 1 currently has.
Well, the Spear Street access is going away.
There's a house just below the 2 acres we're talking about that has a driveway to it.
I understand, but one of the changes that's happening to the 36.2 acre lot is that it will no longer have frontage on Spear Street. That's a change to the 34 acre lot.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but Marty, below were 3 stops.
That's a separate lot, the black line, yeah. Anyway, this comment 4 is just that number one is a planned city right of way, and subdividing the lot on which the city planned right of way is located, you'll be required to dedicate that right of way to the city. And so we are just recommending that you get with Paul and Tom to figure out exactly how large that right of way that you need to dedicate to the city is.
Okay, so I'm with you now. So you're looking, number one, to be a dedicated right-of-way for the city?
Correct.
Okay, I misread it. Because it seemed to me we were asking to do a large percentage of a master plan for a 2-acre subdivision that the staff notes say we don't need to do a master plan for.
No, you just have to meet the subdivision standards. One of them is dedicate all planned rights of way to the city at the time that you subdivide the lot the planned right of way is on.
Okay, I'm with it now.
So
Thanks.
number one is a planned right of way. Number 2 and 3 are not planned right of ways, but staff feels that they may be useful for circulation.
Yeah.
So
I can't argue with that.
Okay. So that takes care of comment 4. Moving on to number 5, staff recommends the board discuss with the applicant whether they intend to propose the exchange of any habitat block as part of this application.
Yeah, that hasn't been discussed at all.
So no.
Okay.
No.
So, no.
Unless you think, Marty, it's a good idea.
I'm not, no comment.
Just wondered.
All right. Does the board have any?
Can we
yeah.
just show where the habitat block is? If I share the plan that comes with the application, I've zoomed in a bit. So the 2 acres line is here, and so the 34 is on the right, and the 32 is on the left. Where is that habitat block line?
My understanding is that the habitat block line, it is the same as the natural resource protection zoning district line.
Thank you.
So any exchange of habitat block would have been extremely complicated and probably not advised.
No. Okay.
And so I just wanted, you didn't say either way if you were proposing it, and I assumed you weren't, but
No, we're
good
not.
to have it on the
No,
record. Yeah.
we're not. Thank you.
Great. Good to have confirmation on that. All right. Staff comment number 6. Given the planned pattern of development in this area, as specified by the minimum density regulations of 15A. .08G below, staff recommends the board ask the applicant how the proposed subdivision meets the applicable regulations and fits within the planned pattern of development for this neighborhood. So,
Well, we're asking for a 2-acre subdivision. We haven't looked to see how the 2 acres is going to look. As it says here, what's on the lot currently, it's grandfathered in. So if we purchase it, we could renovate it as a single-family home and put an accessory dwelling unit in it. I don't think we're going to do that, but it's an option we have. And anything we do there would meet the current regulations, which, it's a living document. By the time we get to it, it may have changed.
okay. Board, do you have any questions?
I mean, I think this will probably just come up again as the plans become clearer. So I think it's just, a good idea to be mindful of those. So
Yeah, well, we wouldn't propose anything that we hadn't discussed with staff and consultants to make sure that it meets the requirements that the board are looking for.
Yeah, and I would just note that there's kind of a range between the existing pattern of development and then the planned pattern of development, not just for this neighborhood, but for the whole city of South Burlington, is a little denser, a little more. So there's a wide range of outcomes that would fit within the planned pattern of development, as it kind of scales up and down from the existing pattern of development.
Well, we're in favor of the Vermont brand, which is compact settlements surrounded by productive open farmland. So we'd be looking at something that meets.
Okay, so there's a range of options there. Okay, moving on to comment number 7. In order to maximize connectivity between these 5 parcels, okay, I think neighborhood staff recommends the applicant dedicate the following right away as part of the final plat application, and so we discussed this previously.
Yeah, so I guess the previous discussion was more about number 1, because that is a city planned right of way. Numbers 2 and 3, in staff's estimation, would be beneficial for circulation and connectivity between potential future developments. The exact size and location, etc., are not set in stone. That's just sort of our at the sketch level, it would be good to get from road number 1 over and to be able to get from South Point down. So just making sure that those areas are on your radar. And I guess it's to the board's judgment if the dedication of the right-of-way should happen at the time of final plat submission.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I jumped ahead probably with this diagram earlier.
Do we need to decide that now? Is that what you're saying? Or just before we get to the site plan?
I guess, sorry, and Marty can say it, but just, again, purpose of sketch is for us to give you general feedback. The emphasis, or the city puts that, high priority on connectivity and making sure circulation is prioritized. So my feedback would be for these dedication of these right-of-ways to be strongly considered. And if you're not proposing or dedicating those at the time of the next time we see you, then to provide an explanation to such. I don't know if my other board members have anything else to add, but that's the feedback I would provide you at this sketch phase.
That sounds good. I would say let's assume 3 and 2 or 3 and 1 exist. I'm more in favor of a healthy walkable community. Why are we providing roads for everybody to get everywhere and we want people to walk and cycle? From my perspective as a planner and designer, I'd rather have the connection from 1 to 2 to be a pedestrian and bike route, not a car route. Why do I want somebody who's living on number 1 to drive to get to number 3? We talk about healthy walkable communities, and then we're giving people as many opportunities as possible to get in their car.
Absolutely. I think, city right away doesn't mean a road's going there. It just means the city would maybe at some point own it. And to your earlier point, you don't own and don't have any intention of developing lot 1. And so that number 2 sort of right away would be on lot 1, which is, as you've mentioned, not part of your plans, not part of this sort of development phase, not considered at all at this point. So it's just sort of more just not for you, but for the Northeast Agricultural Trust, as they have a new lot. They'll have a new lot 1, and just kind of knowing what the restrictions and what they should be sort of envisioning.
Yeah,
that looking like.
I would just also maybe provide the context and feedback of almost because there's nothing being proposed on that larger lot currently, that having the multiple options, and because we don't know, that lot could stay vacant for another 20 years, right? And then we run into a situation, things are different. So make sure that the options for connectivity, whether it's bike ped or more roads, is there. So
line cars,
yeah. Yep.
I've kind of been scratching my head here for a little bit, and I gotta ask. It strikes me as a little strange that we're having this subdivision conversation when the owner of the property isn't here. It doesn't sound. Do you guys? Because you said you're both from Habitat, correct?
We're representing them.
Okay, but you don't seem to be able to answer any of the questions for the property owner. What
we
they plan on
we
doing.
were originally told by staff that this would be originally an administrative approved subdivision, and that it would be a simple subdivision, and that we did not have to identify what would happen on the larger parcel. So that's actually what got the wheels turning. That's what made Habitat interested, because we thought, here is a chance that we could provide affordable home ownership. And I know you're bored. I recognize that. And these are things that have to be in place, I guess, to protect neighborhoods, to design properly and grow properly. But when someone says, why don't we have more affordable housing? This is why. I recognize you can't change it. I'm just, from somebody who's been in this business for over 25 years, to speak honestly, that was our intention. That was our hope, that we could come in and get a 2-acre subdivision and start the process. What was outlined today from a habitat standpoint, certainly a large parcel owner, certainly a large developer, certainly a much larger organization could put a lot more assets to it and a lot more resources. You wouldn't have homes that are truly affordable for your residents. You would have homes that are closer to what affordable is, 400,000, not
So, yeah,
200,000.
so appreciate that. And I will say, so at least this is not requiring a full master plan. You know, what we're talking about here is connectivity, which is, I think, relatively simple, but I hear what your comments. John, did you? So sorry if I can. It sounds like from the current landowner perspective, you all have had received the landowner's sign off to operate on their behalf for the purposes of this hearing today.
We did, and so what our agreement with them is if we could get this subdivided, and if we could get some homes permitted on this, then we would be interested, and they were interested in that.
Yep. So sorry, I just was trying to close the loop on your thought. Anything else?
I was just going to say, I think we all look forward to making sure that that happens in the easiest and most efficient way possible. So thank you for being here. And we are here to help solve problems, not create them. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Yep.
I'm picking up on the last thing you said. If you wanted to know in advance whether you could subdivide off the little lot and build some homes on the remaining lot, if you wanted to determine both of those things to see if you're interested, then you should be prepared to respond to the questions, to the criteria.
I'd like to disabuse you on that. We're not interested in the larger lot. We're only here to talk about the smaller lot. We're not interested in building anything on the larger lot. We're here simply for a 2-acre subdivision.
That's not what I understood you to say.
We were interested in the 2-acre lot. If we could subdivide that off, if it was possible to affordably subdivide that off and get permitted housing on the 2-acre lot, then Habitat could make that work. That was the intention. That is why we were here.
I think the board knows this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think some of the language we're using is a little bit misleading because we're talking about a 2-acre lot. This lot doesn't exist, right? And so as the board has seen in other applications, if you want to create a new lot, you have to take into consideration the impacts on the entirety. So what you're asking for is to create a 2-acre lot, which is, I know, semantics, but it does have a big implication in the process.
Yeah. So, Frank, unless you had anything further, I think we've kind of talked around this point of, you know, we're looking at two lots being created here.
I'm trying to figure out what, it doesn't seem like the burden is that extensive to just provide a connectivity plan. Why is that so burdensome, since it would have to be done I assume you acknowledge that would have to be done anyway for your ultimate goal.
Yeah, it's when we start talking about what the build out would be on the larger lot. Why are we working out what the buildability is on the larger lot when we're only here to talk about the 2-acre lot and purchase the 2-acre lot? Whoever owns that should be doing that if they ever come in front of the board.
Right, but the lot's being created now, and so that's why it needs to be talked about, and that's why it is being talked about, and that's why it's in the staff report. And I think we've talked through that. You understand what's required when you come before us in the future, and why, hopefully. But it's because 2 lots are being created, so we can't just look at the 2-acre lot in isolation. So.
Do you have some sort of an option arrangement with the owner?
Do we have what?
What's your arrangement with the owner?
That's what.
What's the arrangement with the owner? Do you have an option?
That we have a purchase option, that we would purchase this 2-acre lot if it is permittable for housing, affordable housing. And so we're, that would be the latter stages. First, subdivide under whatever is required, and then come back with a proposal that meets coverage, setback, roads, access, easements, all of that, to come back with that. But the first step would be to subdivide it. The burden would be on us then to meet those requirements.
Yep.
But the idea would be not to spend all that time, all of that money. We're a small organization. Time, money, putting all of that together in a proposal if all of a sudden we can't even subdivide it because there are exactly what happened here. There are other requirements that we didn't get to yet. This is not new. It happens.
And yeah, and this is why we're just looking at the subdivision here and then looking at the things that provide the certainty to the extent possible without a specific development plan that it's developable. So we have the same goal here of making sure that this lot is going to be developable for your purposes. We're just looking at both lots.
Thinking more about what was said, it would seem to me, in my simple way, if 1 and 2, if the right-of-way was created at 1, then that should be enough, because that means there's access to the larger parcel. And when the time comes that it may be developed, us getting the 2 acres isn't an issue.
So again, that right-of-way may or may not be for a road. It might be for other connectivity purposes. So again, that's why we're encouraging you to consider those recommended right-of-ways that staff has put forward.
Oh, I have no problem with those.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if one of the main issues with the larger parcel is access after the 2 acres is taken off, and that right-of-way is there, then that's solved.
Yeah, and that's why it's asked for in the staff report. That's exactly why it's a point of discussion. So we're on the same page. We agree.
We got there. It took a while, but we got there. That's the important thing.
Okay, we're moving on to comment number 8. Staff recommends that the board direct the applicant take the comments of the director of the Department of Public Works under advisement. So that is in blue. And so this is about the connectivity as well. It looks like
almost a reiteration of comment number 4.
Great. Yeah. And so we are moving on to staff comment number 9. Staff recommends the board review this criterion and either affirm or deny staff's consideration of the applicant's eligibility for the option specified above. So this is about the
illustrative plan. So if the board remembers the Ruggiero subdivision, Ruggiero had to demonstrate, or I guess they kind of, in that case, they chose to demonstrate that the balance of the property, so the 34 acres in this case, was just as developable as it was prior to the subdivision. The other option, so you could sort of do that sort of mock plan, or you could claim that the subdivision proposed does not impact the developability of the larger parcel in any way, and therefore you don't have to do that sort of requirement. And so our comment here was that the wetland sort of already divides the property in this exact spot, and so we don't think that this subdivision impacts the developability of the back 34 acres, but we're looking to you to affirm that or contradict that sort of.
Yeah, I agree with the analysis staff has put forward. The presence of the wetland effectively kind of subdivides it for developable purposes. Does anyone else on the board have any concerns or thoughts?
Just to confirm, the roadways, South Point, and I don't know if that's windswept, upswept coming around, those are all public roads. So the lot 1 does have frontage.
That's correct.
Okay. Lot 1 is the balance.
It's a larger one.
Excuse me. No longer be off Spear, it'll be off South Point or whatever's to the south of it.
Parkside does not go all the way over to lot 1 though. See, Parkside Drive ends right at South Point Drive. So lot one currently, unless that road was developed, did not have.
Yeah. So
Yes.
the city right of way
It would have to be.
Right away.
The city right of way extends all the way to
To the lot
property
line.
line.
Right.
So the
So-
city already has a right of way there.
Yeah.
Sorry, anything else, John? Or Frank? Anything else?
I'm done. Thanks.
Good? Okay. Great. So that was staff comment number 9. Comment 10, staff considers that if the board finds it unclear, which we do find it clear that it is developable, so we can just skip this comment unless I'm misspeaking on that. And is there another name? Yep. Staff comment 11. Staff recommends that the board direct the applicant to take the comments of the director of the Department of Works under advisement. So this is about the water distribution system looping. So something to be considered.
And this also just generally relates to the connectivity of those two things.
I think it's important.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. And that was our final staff comment. Board, were there any other comments or questions before we see if the applicant has anything else in before we move to public comment? Nope. Okay. Anything else before we? Okay.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. So at this point, we'll be opening the floor for public comment on this application. And I think we have some members of the public that are interested in this application. So I just wanted to provide a reminder that typically the public comment period doesn't function as a question and answer session. It's really for you to provide comments that might be pertinent to us as a board when we're making a decision and reviewing this application. You can pose questions to the applicant. They can choose to answer them or not. But again, focus of public comment period is really to provide any comments you want this board to be aware of. So with that being said, is there anyone online or in person who is looking to make a public comment regarding this application or this sketch plan that we're reviewing?
I've just asked members of the public who are attending virtually to raise their hand if they wanted to make a comment.
Okay. Anyone in the room looking to say anything? Nope.
Nope, no hands raised online either.
Okay, great. And a reminder that this is sketch and this application will be before us again for their final subdivision. So I think no public comments it's looking like?
Nope.
Okay, great.
All set.
And we do not have to vote to close. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a key?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. Thank you for letting us know.
Okay. So Dawn, if you wanted to rejoin the board to finish out the meeting, Dawn?
They could answer just about everything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The owner doesn't care that much.
I'm not sure. And again,
Minutes and other business time.
I don't think we would have heard the application if the owner or their legal representative.
Hey, guys, we're still having a public meeting.
Pardon?
We're still in the middle of a public meeting. Thanks.
Okay. We have the minutes of the May 6th meeting. And to expedite things, I will move that the minutes of the May.
You're gonna allow for some comment, right?
I'm sorry?
You're gonna allow for some comment, right?
You mean about the minutes?
Yes.
Yes. So, all right. I move. Would someone second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any comment?
I reluctantly say that there is, yes. Because is it possible to get the minutes up on the screen?
Sure. Stand by. Minutes. Sharing screen. Minutes.
close to the end. Here, Mr. Moscatelli noted. Oh, wait a minute.
Moscatelli noted.
That's right.
New Jersey. Mr. Moscatelli.
Yeah, I have two things that make me uncomfortable. Since there's quotes around them, I'm not going to argue with Sue whether I actually said stick his 2 cents in. It's not. Unfortunately, the connotation is not what I wanted. It's the point I was trying to make, and I'll come up with language as we discuss it, I guess, is that, what I have to say can be easily ignored. We're on the same plane as commissioners. And what I had in mind when I raised an objection to having counsel around all the time was that a case that I had recently been involved in, albeit only at the appellate level, where an attorney for a particular board, that wasn't a review board, it was a different kind of board, stuck his note, literally took over the proceeding and effectively deprived the board of its discretion. In other words, they would have had to have actually challenged the attorney supposedly speaking with the authority of the law. I thought he was doing no such thing when I read the transcript. And that's what I was trying to get at, that the official lawyer should be there to give advice if there's some specific statute or specific case of which that he might be expected to know something about that the lay people on the board wouldn't. And other than that, his reasoning is his or her reasoning is no better than anybody else's. So I thought.
So Frank, would wording it to say something like want an attorney present who might disrupt the hearing or derail the hearing?
I'd rather say something like, whereas the board may feel constrained to abide by the views of an attorney there in his or her official capacity. Could we change it to say something like that?
Yeah, and I can rewatch it to make sure that specific phrasing is not inconsistent. But yes, I've taken a lot of notes on what you just said about what the tone was, and I will review the recording and find another way to phrase it that it's both that's consistent with the tone.
I'm not claiming I didn't say what
Understood.
Sue says
Yeah,
I said.
but it gets a different.
But
It gets
for
a
the
different
thing that
point
gets
across.
recorded. No,
Well,
and
thank you for picking up on that, Frank. Appreciate
Now, the other thing is that, and this I really do feel pretty strongly about. Again, Sue was not literally inaccurate, but and John knows this because we discussed it on the side when they were here. I really didn't want to say this on the record, but now I have to in order to get rid of the last sentence. The implication of the way this reads is that the response was, yes, we will represent the board. I would like to cut the last sentence out of the report because I think we know from experience that when the city attorney represents the city, ultimately the city attorney considers themselves answerable not to us, but to the city council.
By last sentence, do you mean if
The
a
last
board
sentence
decision?
is shown on the
challenge,
screen
that is
now.
what they would do.
Got it.
Is uncomfortably ambiguous. Right? Just let him say what he said was they'll represent the city, but I think we have learned that what that means is we'll represent what the city council directs us to do.
yeah, the city's attorney
the city's attorney.
It's the
It's the
city's
city's
attorney.
attorney.
Yeah,
He's not- he's
exactly.
not
They're
us.
their client. So
So what are you proposing that we eliminate, Frank?
Just the last sentence.
Of what? Of which paragraph?
The last one. If a board decision is challenged, and
Okay.
that is what they would do, you know, just leave it with, said the city's attorney's obligation is to represent the city, period, and let it hang there.
I had taken from what you just said to say something like this. If a board's decision is challenged, if a board decision, singular, is challenged, the city attorney would represent the city.
Well, he already says that.
yeah, city's attorney represents.
Mr. Johnson asked if the city is obligated to defend the DRB's obligations. Mr. McNeil said the city's attorney's obligation is to represent the city.
Okay.
Period. End of minutes.
If I can do this in real time.
So with those two, are there, let me
So
just,
for the first one, I propose to just make that edit and bring it back to your next meeting. You have draft minutes posted. You are in compliance with state law. Final minutes can be reviewed at a future
okay.
meeting.
So we'll, okay, thank you, Marla. Okay, is there any other business?
No, there's no other
Okay,
business.
then I think we stand in adjournment.
All right. Thank you. I need to end the meeting.
That's why it adjourns.